This is my 2006 C220 Sport Estate, which I bought sold unseen with no MOT, and it was destined for the scrapyard. Now I took a risk. Can I get a £600 car, road legal, up and running again, and use it as a family dog wagon? But I also gave myself another challenge. Can I get it ready for the Nurburgring Nordschleife in Germany? Can I get it all the way over there, do a couple of laps and back again without any issues? Now throughout the year I did a video series detailing all the different mechanical changes and fixes I did to the car to get it in this shape. This video now is an amalgamation of all those, from scrapyard to Nurburgring. After a quick look on the usual places, eBay, Auto Trader and Facebook Marketplace, I quickly decided that I'd be looking at either a C Class estate or an E Class estate. Now I want to stick with Mercedes and something fairly familiar. Now as this is an estate car, or a station wagon known as in America, this is going to be used for daily dog duties. My girlfriend will be driving it also. She's not too keen on larger cars, so that basically drops the E Class out of the mix. So I'll be looking at either a W203 or W204 C Class, if the budget allows. After a good 2 months searching, a member on the Facebook group posted that he had one for sale. The car however has no MOT and he wanted £1,000 for it. Now the MOT is the UK's annual road safety test which all cars must go through, and a car without one indicates something's wrong and needs fixing. This looked tempting, as I quite like the idea of having a project car for the channel. After some messaging, I managed to get the car for a little over half of its asking price. The car does however have some Starship mileage. It's got 176,000 kilometres on the clock. The seller stated that the car needs a front passenger side suspension arm and a driver's side anti-roll bar link to be replaced. Now the trouble is, the car is nearly 4 hours drive from mine, so I've gone ahead and taken the risk and had the car collected after I bought it sold unseen. Hopefully this won't be the biggest car mistake of my life. Now a couple of days later, the car arrived and was driven off the flatbed trailer. It's midwinter and it's dark, so on a quick glance when it arrived, the car did look great. I'll have to see what it looks like first thing in the morning. So it's now the following morning, and this is my new Mercedes C220 CDI estate with the rare factory fit AMG kit, with front and rear AMG bumpers plus side skirts, and I must say in the daylight it looks great, far better than the initial photos suggested. That Mercedes brilliant silver paintwork really pops even in this overcast weather. The car has what, 173,000 miles on the clock? It's not perfect by any means, but from a couple of metres away it really looks good. The front Mercedes star's gone. I've got a new one on order. You know, cars with the upright stars, you've got to have them. It's a classic Mercedes. Looking down the front, the AMG spec bumpers have these kind of mesh that kind of indent really easy, so I need to take those out and reshape them, give them a spray as well, looking at it proper. It's got quite a lot of stone chips, and then the main problem with the front of the car is around this side. It's had a bumper scrape. Now what I'm going to do is probably remove the bumper, sand this back, put some filler in, get it looking ship shape. This is all the same colour, it may not look it on film. The only problem is it's got a little bit of chrome damage there, but strangely it's been attached with a house screw there which is starting to rust. I guess that was probably pinging out. One thing I didn't notice in the advert, it's actually got factory tints on the rear, something I actually want. It just makes the back of the car a lot more secure. Alloys are actually in really good nick. A couple of little minor scrapes, but nothing to write home about. Now the tyres are actually really, well, they've all got decent tread on them. They're some kind of budget make I've never even heard of, and I think one might have a slow punch I need to look at. But rust wise, I mean the front arches, there's a tiny little bit starting there which I need to address. It's common for these. And then of course it's the Sport Edition. Well, I believe the Sport Edition just is the avant-garde spec, but with AMG bumpers. Maybe slightly lower, I'm not sure, I need to look into that. And then the main problem is of course the rust on the rear arches. Now, I knew about this from the advert, but I'll just show you here. So it's not too bad, to be honest. It's not gone around the side, so I can mask this off. And then I just need to sand that back, probably get an angle grinder to it, put some filler in and treat that. I don't believe it's gone further down into these side skirts, but I will need to look at that because that's a common fault on these. It's not as bad as the previous generation, but it's still a problem on these. This is from 2006, so I think Mercedes properly started galvanising around this time. Obviously it didn't do this model, but the rust hasn't continued round on the rest of the arch. There's nothing there whatsoever, and I've even looked on the other side. So yeah, I should be able to get this before it spreads. The brake rotors and discs, there's a lip on the front, not on the back. This has been sat for a while, so I think that's just surface rust. Usual Mercedes rusty calipers. I will give these a good refurbish, probably have to put some new pads and so on. But yeah, around back it's got a tow bar. I don't believe this is factory fit, but I might keep that, I'm not sure. Look at those sexy downpipes. They can probably clean up. I might try and get one of these sort of AMG back boxes. They're probably going to cost nearly as much as what I pay for the car to get them, but they will clean up the rear end. One thing I have noticed, just making this video now, it hasn't got tinted rear glass. Now, I don't know if that's a separate, if the boot lid's been replaced at some point. I think the early ones tend to rust around here, but yeah, possibly. I mean, that looks a perfect match. Should be able to clean this up. I mean, the main problem is just the state of it. It's been a bit neglected for the last couple of months, I think, but I should be able to sort that out, getting it looking shipshape once again. Anyway, let's have a look inside. Of course, this being in a state, the whole reason why I got the car, so I'll open that. Actually, the car came with 2 keys. The seller told me there's only one, but I managed to find another one wedged down inside the car, so that's a bit of a bonus. The car's got the dog net, which is going to be useful. I can unclip that at the top. And then, so this works. That can pull down. There we go. So yeah, the general condition of the car is not bad considering it's got 176,000 on the clock. It just needs a real deep clean. Let's have a look. Oh, another number plate. I guess if it's got a trailer, that makes sense. And then there's a couple of just rogue wires lying around. I can just see there's some actually coming off the battery terminal. I imagine it's had some kind of sound system or something. That'll need some investigation. But yeah, once you get those seats down as well, at the back, it's incredible the amount of load space in one of these. So let's take a look inside. That's pretty much the same situation as the exterior. It just needs a really good clean. There's no mats, which is the first thing you notice. And there's a small rip in the seat. These are all common issues. It's this kind of Mercedes fake leather thing. I could probably, I don't know, I might just put some gaffer tape over that or something. Let's stick inside anyway. Yeah, unfortunately it hasn't got the saddle. I've just discovered the door handle. All right, it's another thing for the list. I've gone through everything. All the electronics and everything seem to work really well. So there's no problems at all. Just, as I said before, it just needs a good clean. I have noticed that that's a bit loose. I don't know if that's just an issue or there's something hiding that I don't know about. Hopefully there's no gearbox issues. But at the moment, the car's declared is off the road. It's sawn. So I've not actually taken it out for a drive. I've driven it up and down the driveway just here. Just going around, you know, getting it off the road and putting it on here. And I couldn't feel any knocks or anything. The engine seems to run fine. And I'll just start it up. Oh. And there we are, the 2.2 diesel lump. Initial impressions, it all looks good. I have noticed a tiny bit of weeping down the end. I mean, it's got 173,000 on the clock. And possibly needs a new engine mount. It's a little bit rattly, but that could just be diesel for all I know. But looking underneath it, I can't see any leakage. Nothing there. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm only looking at it just under my driveway. I need to actually get it up on the lift to have a proper look. Possibly a little bit of leakage over that way. I think the main issue with the car is it's going to be the suspension at the moment. I think it needs new anti-roll bar link and probably the control arms, I believe. Yeah, fingers crossed that's all needs to be done. Now, I bought this with no MOT, which was reflected in the price. Now, for non-UK viewers, the MOT is the UK's annual road safety test, which all cars have to go through by law. So what my plan is, I'm going to drive over to the MOT station now, to my garage. They're going to get it up on the lift and potentially try and put the car through an MOT, which is almost certainly going to fail immediately. But they should be able to give me a full list of everything that's wrong with the car, full audit, I guess, and hopefully there's nothing too serious or anything that potentially could jeopardise the entire project. Okay, so welcome to my car's maiden voyage. Now, the most noticeable thing immediately is the parking brake error, which is red on the dash, and of course the constant beeping. I wasn't made aware of this when I got the car, and I've only been driving it, I guess, below 5 miles an hour on my drive, so this has only become apparent now. I've had a quick look at the handle mechanism and also the pedal, and both seem to be moving fine, so it probably is likely to be the parking brake pad or something like that. It seems to be driving fine though, however. Another thing that's become apparent straight away is the power. Now, I did have a little nosy around in the engine bay before I did this trip, and I can see that I've got some kind of tuning box. Don't know offhand what the power should be on this, but it does feel quite pokey. Otherwise, the steering is slightly loose, and I'm sure I can hear some kind of little knock over this beep, which probably is reflected in, I guess, the control arm or something's wrong with it. Otherwise though, the heater has come on. It's a bitterly cold January day. It has eventually come on, so it's quite fairly warm now. All the electrics seem to be working okay. The brakes could be a little bit better. Obviously, I am kind of spoiled by having the SL, having 6-point calipers. These are never going to be as good, but judging by close inspection, it probably seems like I do need some new pads, if not some new discs. Otherwise though, all seems to be okay. No errors on the dash. Apart from obviously the park and brace. So yeah, let's see how I get on at my MOT centre. And of course it failed immediately, no surprises there. Now luckily it only failed on what the seller of the car had actually mentioned to me for the most part, and there were no major horrors awaiting me. The garage did also have a quick look over the car and actually commented on what a bargain had bought, so happy days with that respect. So looking down the list of failures, all appear to be suspension related, apart from the headlight aim, which is an easy fix and we won't concentrate it in this video, as well as the parking brake failure. Now we already know about that with the beeping of course, so we'll do a full investigation on this. The rest are all the anti-roll bar bushes, in theory a simple fix for the front and rear of the car. Other than that, we have the front lower control arm and ball joint, which is shot and needs changing. There's nothing unique about that, it's quite a common fault on these cars. Then we've got the front driver's side spring mounting plate, which is cracked and is on its last legs. Other than these failures, there were a couple of other advisories to look at. Now the brakes we know about, and I will be doing a full kind of replacement of the brake discs and the pads soon. There's also a slight play in the steering rack. Now, I didn't know about this, but I will monitor it and going forward. One of the rear tyres has got some wear on the edge, and I'll address this when I do a full realignment after I replace all the suspension components, so again, no worries there. Now the rear box is in a bad shape. Now I wasn't aware of this when I bought the car, so I had a look underneath and yeah, it's completely rusted out. I will, however, likely swap this out for an AMG box as soon as I can find one, if I spot one on eBay, etc. And then the only other thing I've mentioned is the front brake lag. So if I do a full refurb of the brakes, hopefully this should address this issue. Hopefully there's no issues with any of the brake lines. As I'm going to be at the point where I need to remove and completely replace most of the suspension components, including both the front strut towers, this actually got me thinking, while I'm in there, can I actually improve or modify the car? Now a quick look online shows that IBAC do a full lowering spring kit for the W203 C Class. This kit lowers the overall car 3 cm all around and will make the car look fantastic. So with brand new struts all around as well as brand new lowering springs, the car is not only going to handle amazingly, even better when the car was brand new, it's also going to look great sitting lower with a much improved stance. Definitely a worthwhile investment in the car. So for a second episode, what I intend to do is do a full detailed clean of the car, both the interior and the exterior. So I'm going to give the car a snow foam, give it a decent wash and give it a machine polish as well. So let's start with the exterior of the car, and this is its current state. Now it's more than apparent that the car has been sat outside for a long period of time, completely neglected. Multiple areas have caked on grime, road tar and even moss appearing. Each of the panel gaps, now especially in the rear bumper, all need clearing out. The door jambs are full of a kind of crud. Just look at the state of this and all the green moss starting to establish itself. This is echoed throughout all of the door jambs across the car. So that's the car in its current state. Now it's time to start detailing and getting the car shipshape. Right, so armed with my new Meguiar's spray foam lance gun, I'm going to give it a good covering with some snow foam. Prior to this, I did actually spray it down with some water off camera. Once the car's been fully foamed up, I let it sit for a couple of minutes before I started tackling it with my trusty detailing brush. Now these brushes are essential for getting into all those tricky areas which you can't get into just with a cloth or a wash mitt. Working my way around the entire car, I targeted all the areas which had years worth of dirt and grime built up in, areas in which a casual car wash wouldn't even come close to getting to. It's amazing all the difference you can make with little effort, like with these badges for example. The brush agitates all the caked on grime and clears it easily. Next up, it was a full all over clean with the wash mitt. Now I took my time on each panel, washing away always in straight lines. You never do this in circles. Now this is to avoid getting swirl marks becoming visible within the paint once you look at them in direct sunlight, so make sure you always do it in straight lines. Afterwards I rinsed off all the remaining snow foam and then dried the car fully with a couple of drying towels. Now I didn't bother filming this because you don't really need to see that. With the car completely dry, it was now time to try and restore some of that shine back into the paint. Now Mercedes paint's really good quality and it's hard, so it shouldn't take too much effort. Out came my D8 machine polisher, and after applying a full coat of wax and then polishing it out, it started to look fantastic. Now the important part is to never stay in the same location for a long time to avoid burning through the paint. Now I hear some of you asking, what about a clay bar? Yeah, I could have gone down that road of claying it, but I had already spent the best part of 2 hours on it, and the car was supposed to be a workhorse or a beater. Now it's not my SL. And what I've already done to the car is probably likely the most intense and detailed wash the car's ever had. And then lastly, to complete the look of the car, I gave the tyres a good coating of some tyre dressing. It's amazing the difference this makes overall with the look of the car. So the car's not looking too bad if I don't say so myself. Now a couple of hours working on the exterior has made a huge amount of difference. This car was neglected and now look at it. It's got a great mirror-like shine across the entire car. Plus the wax should protect it for the remainder of the winter. Let's move on to the interior of the car. Now if you thought the exterior was in a bad shape, prepare yourself. The interior must be 10 times worse. Honestly, I doubt it's ever been clean in here for a good number of years. First off, there's a really weird sort of old musty smell in here. Now I know the car is getting on for 19 years old, but still, I have a feeling there might have been, or actually currently, maybe a water leak in here. Now the steering wheel is grimy, just look at the state of the leather and the switches. I think that all the paint may have worn off the leather in fact, I don't think that's mould. And the rear of the car faring up no better. There's various stains on most of the surfaces and a hint of mould on one of the seat belts. And now to the worst part of the car, the boot. Just look at the state of all this. It's clearly been used to carry all kinds of stuff around for years. never been cleaned. Judging upon what I've found so far, it seems like it was regularly carrying wood and trees, dogs and gravel. Boot floor compartment was the spare wheel well, a rarity these days to actually have a spare wheel fitted, and this appears to be the original as well. Out these all came for a full clean. Not bad, eh? Now the boot took the longest out of the entire car to clean. That's mainly due to all the wooden splinters being firmly lodged into the carpets and trim, but all the hard work has paid off and it's looking great once again. Vacuum cleaning the rest of the car was fairly straightforward, to be honest. As with anything in life, if you want it doing properly, take your time. Now the car was finally starting to take shape and looking clean. That was until I lifted up the rear bench and revealed what was hiding below. Now I knew this was coming because all that dirt falls down and it goes everywhere, including under the seats and through the seat gaps. Not to mention the backs of the seats, and also the area which is only visible once you fold the rear seats flat. A short while later, job done, and it's looking very clean. Definitely worth doing. Now I'm starting to make excellent progress on the interior, as you can see. Now it's nearly finished overall. However, as I'm quite a meticulous person, and when I'm cleaning a car up to this standard, I always make sure that I remove both front seats. Now it doesn't matter how clean you get the car, unless you remove both the seats, it won't be in as new condition clean. The mounting brackets as well as the underfloor air vents always get missed on a detail, and on this car they're as grimy as the rest of the interior was before I started. It's definitely worth doing. Another benefit of removing the seats, you can thoroughly clean both of them with full access to all sides, far easier once it's out of the car. Over the years they accumulate lots of dust and dirt, particularly in the seams of the leather. And while these seats were drying, it gave me enough time to go in and clean up under the carpets, getting it looking once again as new. And here it is, the final result of all my hard work. Now it's hard to believe that it's actually the same car. Just look at the mirror shine in the paint. Now silver cars always have trouble on camera showing how the paint shines. It's actually far more reflective in person than it's appearing on screen now. I would say how it's taken me, I guess, best part 4 hours in total. Now that's for both the interior and the exterior to get it up to this level. Now of course it's not going to be 100% perfect, of course. The car does have 173,000 miles on the clock, and however much work I put in, it's never going to be 100% in this state. Inside though is where I say the biggest transformation has occurred in my opinion. Now the weird smell's actually gone, and it does finally feel like a nice place to be in once again. Now I'm aware that this video might be a complete waste of time, considering that I don't know what the mechanical state of the car is. That said, if the worst thing did happen and there was a major mechanical fault which potentially writes the car off, I guess I could still sell the car in this new revitalised state for at least what I paid for, maybe even make a small profit. But as it stands now, I'm in a good place. Hopefully it should be fine going forward. Okay, so it's now time to actually get some work done on the car. Now I've got all my tools set out and everything's ready to go. I'm just waiting for my mate Ed, who you've seen on the channel before, to come along, as he's more mechanically minded than me and he's going to be giving me the proper advice of what to do. So I've got myself a set of brand new Sachs front suspension or dampers, which are going to be fitting those today. To go with that, I've got myself a new lower control arm and ball joint. And then we've also got a set of new bushes, front and rear. And then, just in case you get any problems with doing bolts, I've got myself a hammer and a blowtorch as well. And of course a copy of the Haynes manual for this car, just in case we get stuck at any point. Yeah, so I'm going to be getting to... sorry, I've just kicked the back of the toolbox. But yeah, we're going to get started today, and hopefully it shouldn't take us too long to do this, but I'm expecting some issues. And then just to show you around the back, I've removed all the trim, which wasn't too difficult, just to get access to the rear strut towers. Now this wasn't too difficult once you know what you're doing, but I can access the top mounts on both sides there. So the first job on the list we're going to tackle are the front anti-roll bar bushes. Now they're both in a very sorry state and it's obvious why they failed the MOT. It looks like the previous owner has done a proper botch job on here. From what I can tell, it appears to have had gaffer tape wound up, which has been used to make the bar wider, and they've simply placed the old worn bushes over the top. So I went over to my local Mercedes dealer, to the parts department, who provided me with a replacement set of bushes, which they actually had in stock. However, when I got home, as you can see here, they're a completely different shape and won't fit into the aluminium carriers. Now after a little bit of research, it turns out that on the Sport Edition cars, which is what I have here, they have different shaped bushes and they come pre-attached to the anti-roll bar itself, and they cannot purchase these separately, which does explain why the previous owner did a botch job, I guess. Now looking at the aftermarket for replacements, only Powerflex sell a replacement set, which are going to be way too hard for the intended use for my car. So I had no other option but to buy a completely new roll bar from Mercedes, which ended up being far more expensive than your average car's bushes. Removal of the bar and the bushes is a fairly simple job. Once you initially loosen the e-torque bits, it's really plain sailing. So yeah, you can see here both side by side, the old and the new. And with the bar off the car, it is apparent that the drop links also were in a sorry state, with both of all the seals completely ripped, exposing the inner grease. So I've bought a replacement pair of those, which I'm going to fit. You can also make out the new anti-roll bar bushes attached to the bar, and for some reason they seem to paint over them at the factory, which is kind of pointless really because they're rubber and all the paint just cracks off. And a short while later, it's all back together with the new roll bar in place. And the trouble is, with it being gloss black, it does look like something's been dripping on it, like I've got an oil leak or something. All the suspension components have seen better days and are crusty. To start with, we're going to be replacing the lower control arm with ball joint. A fairly easy task once you free the old one. Apologies for the camera work on this section. Removal also requires the under trays to be undone and partially removed for access. Skipping forward to after the lower arms removal, which resulted in a load of swearing and grazed knuckles, I'll add, you can clearly see why it was an MOT failure. Its rubber dust cover had long since split, which meant that the ball joint was exposed to the elements, which would hardly move anymore due to ingress from road dirt, etc.
This is always a pain. You can't see the hole, so I don't know when it's lined up. You buy an OEM part and you have to modify it to get it to fit the damn car. It's like, okay. It's bloody tricky, this one.
Now the reason why the rubber part looks a little bit skew-whiff here is just because the whole wheel hub assembly is hanging down as the car's jacked up, and there's no wheel on it of course. As soon as it's level, it'll settle down and look perfect. So that's 2 down on the checklist for the MOT done. And then the main part which is still left to do with the front suspension. Unfortunately I didn't really get too much footage of this apart from what you're seeing on screen now. Ed having a bit of a laugh with the joking about the potential danger of these springs. Now what I'm referring to is the fact that the MOT failure was on the driver's side, and just look at the bottom of the spring mount. There's a huge crack all the way through it. I believe there may even be a crack on the actual spring. Now if you know anything about compressed springs, you want to avoid kind of going anywhere near these. They're kind of like a ticking time bomb really, especially in this state. The amount of potential energy that's compressed in these, they could, you know, take your face off or worse. So what we were originally planning to do is actually building up ourselves the replacement struts and springs, the lowering springs. Unfortunately Ed's spring compressor wasn't quite big enough to get over the kind of the lips here. and we were trying to film this at the same time, which didn't really go to plan. So what we agreed to do is actually take them down to my garage who are doing the MOT. And here they've just come back now, and look at these two, don't they look fantastic? So you've got the IBAC lowering springs and all the new suspension dampers sorted there. Now we took them to the garage who's got proper tooling to do this in a safe environment. I will try most things DIY, but anything like this, there's the potential of getting things completely wrong and so dangerous. So yeah, we've got a couple of brand new suspension struts here which will go in. Now I was going to actually include them in this video, but I think what I'll do is put them in episode 4. I'll fit these as well as sort out the rear suspension, and hopefully we should be at the point where we can get the car MOT'd and back on the road once again. But yeah, just look at the state of those. You can tell that the car did do 173,000 miles with these on, and yeah, they're looking in a real sorry state, and these should probably outlive the car, in fact. So yeah, this project is taking a little bit longer than I originally anticipated, but you have to remember it's the first time I've ever done anything on this scale by myself. We are making slow progress, but it does feel like it's kind of one step forward and 2 steps back, which is inevitable for any kind of project, I guess. Now, continuing directly on from episode 3, we've had all the suspension all built up by my garage. So in this video, we're going to be fitting it on all 4 corners. We're also going to be fully replacing all the brake components, the discs and the pads. And hopefully after that's all been done, we're going to attempt to take it through an MOT and get it finally road legal. Let's get started. So as I just mentioned, we're carrying on this video immediately after the last episode. Now both suspension dampers and springs have been built up by my garage and are ready to be installed into the car, followed by both the rear springs as well. Now the new anti-roll bar is already in, as well as the one at the back, and we'll also install the new front drop links at the same time as putting in the rest of the suspension. Now there is a small amount of surface rust on the inside of the struts. Now I'm going to plan to sand this down, cover it in some crust anti-rust solution, then some zinc primer it, as well as respray it and lacquer it. Now it's only minor at this point, but while I have the car dismantled, I'd be mad not to tackle this. After both sides of the front have been installed, we'll then move on to the rear, which should be a hell of a lot easier than the front.
Very close. It's always the worst fault.
Fitting these worked out to be relatively straightforward, with only some minor fettling as you'd expect. Ed has been doing this for years, so it was his dab hand at it. And luckily there were no kind of weird Mercedes quirks that we needed to deal with. And then a little while later, everything had been bolted correctly into position. Only the ABS sensor wire remained, which needed to be clipped into its correct location. With everything built up, correctly installed, the only thing left to do was pop on the dust cover onto the top retaining bolt, which marked it as job complete. Next up, onto the rear of the car. Now once it was jacked up, it's far simpler than dealing with the front suspension setup. While it's just a case of slowly letting the arms lower down while we prop them up safely with a jack. Now I opted not to replace the rear dampers. They look good condition to be honest, and unlike the fronts there wasn't any real need to replace them. I know some of you will think it was best to replace all at the same time, but you've got to remember I am on a budget with this restoration and I can't replace everything with brand new components. And here with this final shot, the brand new spring is slotted into place. When tightening everything back up, you kind of have to wait for a moment until the spring sort of pops back into place before you can continue tightening. Next up, it's time to have a look at the braking system. Now initially, before I touch the actual discs, pads, etc., I wanted to address the actual look of these terribly rusted floating calipers. Now most Mercedes of this vintage have calipers in this state. It's only actually surface rust, but it does ruin the complete look of the car, as you can see these rusty calipers poking through the alloy wheels. However much you clean the car, it always lets the look down. Now to fix this, I initially used a wire brush to remove any flakes or excess and painted them with a couple of coats of Hammerite silver paint. Now this is really hard wearing and heat resistant, essential on brakes. No, not perfect by a long shot, but looking through the wheels when they're on the car, it does give the car a little bit more of a sporty appearance and doesn't let the overall look down, unlike before they were painted. Now on to the actual braking system itself. As you can see here, the front discs have not only a fairly large lip to the front of them, but they're also extremely rusty around the vented edge. Now there's literal chunks of rust falling away. Also on the rears, although there's no lips on the actual disc, they're holding up no better. These are all well past their use by date and must go. So I've gone ahead and purchased a complete set of brake discs and pads, as well as a dust shield. Now I'm not sure if I'll go ahead and fit the shield yet, I'll decide on that later. So sourcing these parts wasn't as easy as you'd imagine. The Sport edition of the W203 can be spec'd very differently. It was optional to have both the lowered suspension as well as the larger twin piston front calipers and cross drilled larger discs. Now my car had the suspension but just with the standard brake discs. So I used a popular website to source my parts, and when they arrived they'd actually sent me the wrong larger discs. Yes, I could completely overhaul the braking system and source a big brake kit, but we are on a budget here, and for the use of the car I've got no need for that. So I returned them and sourced the front discs directly from Mercedes themselves, as well as a pair of aftermarket discs for the rear.
Nearly there.
I see now it's just stuck on the lip.
Basically, yeah. Whoop, there we go. Yeah, that's it.
Look how well they were painted. Now just while Ed finishes off the calipers, I thought I'd quickly show you the state of the existing pads compared to the replacements. Some of the worst I've ever seen. Now they're both completely down to the bare metal. Now I went with Brembo on the front, a decent trusted brand, for its replacements.
Yeah, but I wouldn't normally use it on a caliper like this, just because it doesn't fit very well. But it fits better than the G Clan does, and it's doing its job.
And after all that work, here's the final job. Brand new discs, pads, and of course suspension. Complete overhaul, and it's going to handle and brake fantastically. Just a couple of dabs of copper grease to prevent it from squealing once the wheel's back on. And then importantly, with the MOT due again tomorrow, with all the suspension work done, as well as the full overhaul of the braking system, surely it must pass with no issues whatsoever. So guys, welcome to my new fully road legal C Class estate. It passed the MOT with flying colours. The only couple of advisories, which was all things I really knew about, to be honest. The main one is one of the rear tyres on the inside. It's wearing slightly thin on the inside edge, just in case I need to get the realignment of the car sorted again. Something I'm going to have to do anyway, just because I've had all the suspension and geometry change, etc. Only other thing is the driver's side mirror. It's a bit clouded. That came up as an advisory. And then the last thing is just the exhaust rear box, which I knew about anyway. I will address that later in the video because I've got an AMG rear box, but I say we'll go into that shortly. But yeah, really impressed with the car. It seems to be driving quite nippy. That TDI tuning box which the car's fitted with, I believe it gives the car about 200 horsepower, and you can feel it. It's obviously nowhere near as fast as my SL, but it doesn't feel like a slow car. It's got a lot of grunt and a lot of torque. Otherwise, steering seems to be spot on. Those new springs make the car handle perfectly. Ride is a little bit harsher than I thought it would be, but that's probably because it has got lowering springs, of course. But yeah, otherwise, really impressed with the car. So far, so good. I thought it would be a good time to go over the car and show you what it looks like with these IBAX lowering springs fitted. Now they state that they're 3 centimetres drop all round, but that's from a standard W203, not the actual Sport Edition like mine, which already has the factory lowering slightly. So it's not a difference of night and day drop, but it's definitely lower. So if you bear that in mind if you want to go through the same mod as myself. Now close up on the side of the car, there's only around a 2 centimetre gap or so, I'd say, between the tyre and the wheel arch, if that. And then over to the rear of the car, the same story here. The car has settled in nicely, but I wouldn't really want to drop it any lower than this. Of course it affects the practicality overall. Even now the ride is fairly harsh, and that's with it sitting on the factory fit 17-inch wheels. I do plan on changing it to 18-inch wheels in future, which will affect the ride even more. Same situation over on the other side of the car. Now sitting perfect in my opinion with its factory fit AMG kit. It has the perfect width and stance. So yeah, I'm very happy with its overall look. I do thoroughly recommend these I-back springs. If you have any questions, please drop them below in the comment section. Although the car has passed its MOT with no major issues, as previously mentioned, it did have a couple of advisories, one being for the rear box on the exhaust. Now the entire outer shell of the rear box is rusting away, with over half of it being disintegrated already. Oddly however, the rest of the exhaust system is in great shape, with the main pipe spanning down the body of the car being in fantastic condition. Both of the chrome rear tailpipes have seen better days however, with the outer pipe being in worse shape than the inner one, and it's not long for this world. As the car already has the factory fit AMG body kit, which includes a cutout already for the exhaust, this got me thinking. Now I wonder if I can source an AMG rear box which would complement the overall look of the car completely. As my car is a diesel, the factory fit tips which came with the car are chrome, but they face downwards. However, either a C32 AMG or the later C55 models had the twin chrome exit exhaust pipes complete with AMG branding, and these should fit perfectly. So after searching for a number of weeks on eBay and Facebook Marketplace, I was able to source one via Facebook, a complete C32 AMG rear exhaust system, which looks in decent condition to be fair. Now unfortunately I've only got a convertible SL, and my other half only has a tiny Toyota model, so picking up the exhaust from a couple of hundred miles away was going to be interesting to say the least. Luckily for me it was a bright sunny day. Not very warm though, mind you, it is still very early spring in the year. Now I was able to collect the exhaust and keep it in one piece without having to cut it up, which was the main point of the trip, rather than getting it actually delivered. Now by having it pointing down into the passenger footwell and then up and over the passenger seat, well, I did protect the actual seat as well with some towels etc, and I used a seat belt to secure the exhaust pipe in place. This did work out perfectly, if a little cold on the way back however. Now this exhaust system had been in storage for a couple of years, the seller mentioned, which you can tell by the state of the chrome tips. There's nothing wrong with them as such, it's just nothing I can't tackle myself. I should be able to clean this up. Now as far as I can make out, the exhaust shape, and more specifically the rear box, is the same shape between the saloon models and the estate models. Now there will be a small amount of fabrication which needs to take place. I'll likely cut it just after the centre resonator, and hopefully it'll be a straight swap across. So armed with some Brasso, some Autosol, a cloth, as well as a lot of elbow grease, I should be able to get this exhaust tip looking like new. Now 10 minutes later, and here's the before and after. Now it's coming up great, it's nearly as good as new. Just a couple of minor scratches, however this should be covered by the rear bumper. And there is here, as you can see, some pitting on the chrome, which is to be expected really when the exhaust is getting on for 20 years old. And then the final result of all my hard work. Looks really decent, eh? Now today we're going to take the car out on dog duties. We've got Fred in the back of the car. This is the original purpose of the car, remember? Hello Fred. Well, there's a bit of a design flaw with this car. You can see him getting stuck through the net. We'll go on that later. Anyway, between the last video and this, we've had no end of mechanical problems with the gearbox and the starter motor. And in this video, I'm going to go through exactly how we solved those issues to get to the point where we are now. Let's get started. So you join me here stranded at the petrol station, miles from home, and I'm just waiting for the car to cool itself down. So what I've managed to figure out is that after being stranded here for over an hour, as soon as I start the car when the engine is hot, it immediately blows the starter relay fuse. I had to do a little bit of Googling to find that out. So it keeps doing it time and time again, but as soon as the engine is cool again, it will start with no issues, and hopefully should allow me to get home okay. So this happened last night and we weren't 100% sure of the symptoms, but now it's been confirmed. Luckily I have a number of spare fuses with me. There's no errors or anything appearing on the dashboard. I simply insert the key into the car and start it, and as soon as I turn the key I hear a loud click coming from the engine bay, and then the car's completely dead. Now each time when the fuse is blown, wherever the engine is hot, the fuse immediately blows. Now the original fit to the car is 15 amp fuse. Here I've tried it with a 20 amp to see if it makes any difference, but yet again it still blows once again. Now don't dare try it with any higher amperage, as I don't want to cause an electrical fire, of course. So with no error codes appearing on the dashboard, as a process of elimination, I wanted to go ahead and scan the car for any errors. This is my Chinesium version of the Zentry Star Diagnostic tool. Now I can't get any coding to work with this setup, but it is excellent still for any code management. It should be able to pick up all the codes which virtually all of the third-party ODB2 scanners still cannot. A quick scan here reveals 3 error codes as indicated on the right hand side of the screen with the F for fault. Looking through these doesn't really reveal anything of any use. We have a faulty alarm battery, which is really common on cars of this age, an open circuit for the car's coolant level sensor, which you may have actually spotted as an error on the dashboard earlier in the video, and finally an error with the overhead panel, something to do with the sunroof. It works completely fine, so I'm not going to worry about that. But yeah, nothing of any use which might relate to the starter issues. After a load of research on forums etc, it turns out that it's almost certainly a result of a broken starter motor. Now it's not really a surprise, is it, where a car's got 173,000 miles on the clock. So the car's going to be going back up in the air. Now this time we're going to go around to Ed's place instead of mine. He has every possible tool you can imagine for working on cars. Added to which he has one of these amazing quick jack lift systems. Now these are a real game changer compared to a standard trolley jack, as you can see. You can easily get completely under the car at once, safely and securely, without having to lower and then re-raise up the car multiple times in one session. So the starter motor is located on the passenger side of the engine, behind the wheel arch liner, and apparently it's a complete pig of a job to change. For right-hand drive cars it's actually easier than left-hand drive for once, as the steering column isn't in the way, so that's one thing which is in our favour. The motor itself is held in by 2 E-Torx bit long bolts. There's one which is fairly easy to get to, which is on the underside, and then there's another one which is above, which I've already read is a total pig to get to. And regarding that upper bolt, this is what you need in order to access it. No joke, we raided all of both my socket extensions as well as all of Ed's. Have you ever seen anything more ridiculous? Thanks Mercedes engineering department. And here we have both the original OEM Vallejo starter motor and then next to it the pattern part replacement. Now to get an OEM replacement you're looking at nearly £400. So I opted for a cheaper alternative, patent part. Yeah, it may not last as long as the original, but we are on a budget with this project after all. And what was the end result? Fixed, of course. It's now working again every time, even when the engine is hot. No more getting stranded at petrol stations. So the car is fairly high spec with its AMG body kit. However, the car wasn't fitted with xenon headlights, only the ancient halogen headlights with their very orangey yellow bulbs. Now these were fine back in the day, but in 2025 lighting's come a long way, especially as my other car, my SL, has some xenon headlights which I've gotten used to. Now back in the day between 2010 and 2014, I used to import some LED side lights, that's the W5W or 501 wedge side lights, over from the US. Now I sourced a supplier who created them with Cree LEDs. Now back in the day these were almost unheard of at that time for an aftermarket LEDs to be Cree. Now the difference is that these were vastly superior, especially back then. These lights emitted an almost perfect white light. At the time, all the white headlights which people sold were actually very purpley or blue in output. Added to which, the units which I sold were also CAN bus error free, meaning that no errors would appear on your dashboard. Now the reason why errors which would appear is that they drew significantly less power than standard side lights. As a result, the car's CAN bus system thinks that the bulb is blown. Now my LEDs had resistors fitted to them to fool the car into thinking that normal bulbs were fitted. I also want to upgrade the main bulbs, the dip beam, but I don't want to go down the aftermarket LED route on these, as they'd no longer be legal here in the UK. So after some research, it appears that the whitest bulbs are these Philips White Vision Ultras. Still extremely yellow compared to xenons and LEDs, but an improvement over the stock bulbs nonetheless. With the car fully road legal and a year's MOT on it, we were enjoying it as a family workhorse and a dog car until disaster struck. One morning the car just wouldn't shift out of second gear. Now I tried pulling over at the side of the road and switching the car off and back on again once again, hoping that this would make a difference, but no avail. No errors have appeared on the dash, so it would be another case of connecting the car up to the scanning machine to see if anything came up. It didn't. Whatever I did, it just wouldn't shift past second gear, which was of course difficult when you're driving a fair long distance. Alright, so as you've just seen, gearbox problems. Now it's a real shame because we're on episode 5 now. I've had the car a good couple of months. We've done so much work getting it ship shape. Got the car legal, and I was driving around with it for a couple of days, all good. I was really enjoying what the car was like to drive. I was really impressed. And then just getting it, and then it got stuck in second gear. Actually, that sounds like the intro to Friends, doesn't it? It's like you're always stuck in second gear. But yeah, what do I do next? So the car was cheap, as you all know, and I've spent a considerable amount of time and money getting the car to the situation we're in now. Now, the first option I've got is going to get a full gearbox flush. I've gone ahead and purchased from Mercedes an actual OEM flush kit. You get new oil, new gaskets, etc. Looking online, a lot of people say that's the best thing you can do, or the first thing you should try is just flush out the oil, and a lot of time it can sort it out. Added to which, I'm not even sure the level of oil which is in the car. I have noticed that there is a kind of, sometimes on the driveway, there is a patch of oil below the gearbox. So it could have been doing it for ages, and it could just be a situation where the oil in the gearbox is so low it's causing these problems. It's probably unlikely. I did phone around to a gearbox specialist and they were like, no, if it's stuck in second gear, you've got a problem with the pressure. He actually suggested that I scrap the car. So next week anyway, I'm going to get my car, the flush kit done. My garage themselves are not keen on the outcome of it, but I've already got the kit, so there's no harm in doing that. Next up, the gearbox specialist quoted about £2 to £2.5 grand for me to get the gearbox rebuilt. Not keen on spending that much money on top of how much I spent already on a 19-year-old car. And then the last option is I look out there for a second-hand 722.6 gearbox. Now this was Mercedes 5-speed workhorse for many years, and it's supposed to be bomb-proof gearboxes, in fact. I guess I'm the one with the exception. But yeah, if I look online second-hand, there will be plenty out there. The issue you need to do is make sure that you get the correct variant. You get so that the car's computers can talk to the gearbox control unit. Also need to make sure that I get the right converter for it, etc. So a couple of options on the table. I'm not, at this point in time, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. As I say, I've got next week, we've got the flush going to happen. We'll see what happens there. And one last thing which I'll include in this episode is the very un-German design flaw which you have with the built-in dog guard. Now don't get me wrong, the built-in retractable dog guard is great, but what is the point when you have two giant gaps either side of the car? Now Fred isn't staying put, he wants to come up front immediately. Now you join me at the moment on the motorway on the way to drop off a set of staggered AMG alloy wheels. Now more on that later in the video, but I'll start with the car. Obviously I'm driving it at the moment and it's driving fantastically. Now you may remember from the end of episode 5 that we had major problems with the car. The gearbox was stuck in second gear and I'd been told by 2 garages basically that the car's essentially a write-off and to be scrapped. Gearbox specialist has said with the value of the car it's not even worth looking at it. However, my garage that I use all the time said they would have a go at replacing the gearbox flush kit which I bought online and have a go at actually flushing it out for me, but they couldn't confirm anything. So drop the car off. A couple of hours later I get a phone call from them and amazingly it's worked. They topped it up with all the oil, replaced all the seals and everything, and yeah, they mentioned that they put 5 litres into the car but didn't get 5 litres out. Now, initially, for the first couple 100 miles or so, the car was still a little bit jumpy. Took it on the motorway, doing about 70 miles an hour, it wouldn't go up to 5th gear. It, most of the time, would stay in 4th. However, since then, I guess the car's ECU has sorted itself out. The gearbox has kind of cleaned itself out. Now, I will possibly do another flush in a couple of 1,000 miles or so, because people have said it's the best thing to do to maintain the life of the car. But nearly on 2,000 miles now. I've been down to Goodwood and back, gone across the other side of the country, and it's been fantastic. So good, in fact, that I've even managed 60 to the gallon. So with the car running fantastically, I've decided to go ahead and do some modifications. First up is the alloy wheels, which I mentioned at the start of the video, but I've also had the, me and myself and my mate Ed have fit the AMG, the C32 AMG rear box to the car. And in this video, we're going to detail all the modifications I've done so far. So you may recall from episode 4 of this series, the condition and state of the stock rear exhaust box, which is fitted to the car. Now originally these pipes would have been chrome and quite presentable, although they do face downwards. However, as you can see from here, they're in a very sorry state, with the left hand side even featuring some metalwork which is rusted away. So recently I bought off Facebook Marketplace a C32 AMG rear box, complete with twin AMG branded exhaust pipes. Now these are in a sorry state themselves, until I got to work cleaning and polishing them up, which they now look as good as new. As my car has the AMG body kit already with the AMG rear bumper, this rear box will fit into the cutout of the bumper perfectly, looking OEM. Now what we believe has happened to the rear box is salt water corrosion. Now it's possible that the car in its past has been used to tow a boat and the owner would reverse the car back into the water, and over time this was eaten through the stock rear box. The front side of the exhaust is in great condition with no rust whatsoever, and the rust is just affecting the rear half, which would have been the part which actually would have been submerged under the water. So it's off around Ed's once again to get the car up onto his quick jack lift system. With the existing rear box removed, and it's side by side with the new C32 AMG rear box, you can really see the sorry state which is currently in. This was actually an MOT advisory, so it's good to get this off the car and replace with another, which is another issue off the list. Ed soon got to work with his welding skills, this time with aluminium, which is a lot harder to work with due to the softness of the metal. Now we used the front end of the existing pipe and we cut it and then welded it onto the new AMG pipework. You can see here the quality of his welds, which I think look excellent. And with a new set of exhaust hangers all around, and nearly after 1 hour of fettling, the exhaust is back on the car. Doesn't it look great? It actually looks completely OEM, and you wouldn't think that the car didn't come with this originally. Not that I was really expecting much, but I did think that this new rear box would sound a little bit better. I appreciate it's a diesel, however there's virtually no change with the diesel rattle, as you'll hear here. This is surprising really, as for my old CLK 270, also a diesel, it did sound a lot deeper, as you can hear on this clip. However, the CLK was a 5-pot diesel and not a 4-pot as my C Class is. Remaining around the back of the car, I've decided to remove the tow bar for 2 reasons. Now one is because I keep walking into it and hitting my knees, especially when I'm at the petrol station and I'm not looking where I'm going and I'm actually filling the car with some diesel. And secondly, because I want a cleaner look around the back of the car. The tow bar itself is detachable and I've noticed that there's a key hole on it. However, I wasn't provided with the key when I bought the car. So I reached out to the manufacturer of the tow bar in Italy to see if they could provide me with a replacement key or a code, to no avail. So plan B, remove the rear bumper and try and remove it with some tools. With the bumper off, it looks like it's only held on with 4 large bolts, and with the help of an impact gun, I was able to remove these to free the tow bar. After disconnecting the plugs, it was free of the car. I'll need to fabricate some kind of custom bracket to hold the attachments in place under the bumper. With the bumper back on, you can just about make out the electrical connector hidden away underneath. It's possible that I might one day need to tow something, so having the option to reinstall it back again will be useful, I guess. Now, the tow bar's around a good 10 kilos or so removing it will help with the car's overall weight and mileage. Obviously removing the bumper each time and reattaching it isn't as convenient as using the key, but with the absence of the key and no other option, it's not the end of the world and takes about half hour all in. So with the C32 AMG rear box fitted, the tow bar removed, and I've also debadged the rear, I think the back of the car's looking decent enough now. Being as my car is a sport edition, it came originally with a choice of 17-inch alloy wheels staggered as standard. Now these days these are fairly highly sought after. Mine, the ones that are fitted onto the car, is known as the Hodus 6-spoke edition. I actually like these, however I want to go larger on the car. There's always been a certain type of AMG alloys from the early to mid 2000s which I've really liked and I've always thought looked great. These are known as the AMG 3 alloys. And there's a fairly kind of rare wheels these days. These used to be found on CLKs, B classes and C classes, etc. on particularly sort of humdrum models, but I really do like the look of these, especially on a 203 C class. So a quick look on Facebook Marketplace again, and I was able to pick up a set fairly local to me. However, they did need some work. Off I went and picked them up. There was no trouble getting them in the back of the estate. The wheels had been stored outside for God knows how long, covered in mud and what looked like eagle shit. Now I'll get the power washer out and give them a good clean to see what's what. And here's the wheels after a full clean. Now they of course could do with a full refurb. There's lots of scratches and pits and so on. I will attempt to sort this out myself with the DIY kit. I have done wheels in the past on the channel. But yeah, I've got one problem though with one of the wheels. This one here, it's not holding air. So I've kind of been scammed, and the guy didn't mention this of course. But if you look at the back of the wheels, they're actually in a bad shape anyway. But that's just the surface where they originally were. Diamond cut, you can just see the kind of marks here. But yeah, there's a flat spot on the wheel where the air's coming out. If you can see that there. Just under where it says UAT. But yeah, that bit, there's air coming out. When I pump it up and I put some water over it, you could hear the air coming out. The tyre is in good condition though, so we should be able to keep that. I've just got to source another one of these alloys, which isn't going to be good. They are staggered, so this is going to be one of the front ones, which is slightly narrower than the two rear ones here. But yeah, nothing's ever straightforward, is it? Due to the final state of the wheels after the clean, I bit the bullet and opted to get them professionally refurbished. Now the wheel centre I'm going to be taking them to said they could actually repair the wheel which isn't holding air for an extra 30 quid. So I thought it was far better doing that than sourcing another single wheel. A week or so later and here they are. Wow, don't they look amazing? Now I decided not to go for the slightly odd OEM satin look which they originally came with, and I opted just for silver, and don't they look great? Not only have they refurbished them, they've also ironed out any little knocks and dents in them and all hold air excellently. No cracks or anything to worry about. While I was there, I also had all 4 tyres changed for a set of new Nankangs. A fairly decent mid-range set which will suit the car perfectly. And the tyres that were already fitted to the car had numerous puncture repairs, and also one of them had really cracked sidewalls, so it was a case of I had to get them. It was a necessity really. The biggest transformation has to be the inside lip. Just compare how different this looks now to how it was before. Yes, the wheels originally were diamond cut inside, but diamond cut wheels don't really work in the UK with our grit and wet salty roads in the winter. So I've opted just again with this complete silver look, and it looks fantastic. Good as new. I tidied up the centre caps as best I could. That'll do for the meanwhile, but going forward I'll probably get myself a new set. So it's now time to get the car up on the jack and replace these wheels. I reckon these are going to completely transform the look of the car and make it look excellent. Using my trusty torque wrench, I got them torqued to the correct spec. This is my 2006 C220 estate which I paid under 600 quid for back in December. The car had to be delivered to me on a flatbed as it wasn't roadworthy, nor did it even have a valid MOT certificate. I found this car online and bought it sold unseen. Now the seller did mention a couple of the issues, but not everything, as I quickly discovered. Now I've taken a huge risk, especially as this is my first project car. In this video I'm going to go through in detail all the different cosmetic fixes I've done to the car to make this one of the best looking C classes on the road. Alright guys, welcome to episode 7 in this series. So in this video I'm going to go through all the little cosmetic changes and improvements which I've made to the car, and after that I'll give you a detailed full breakdown of how much all this has ended up costing me, and then my final thoughts on the entire project overall. Might as well start at the very front of the car. Now the Sport Edition came with a fully silver grille. I reckon it would look more modern and far better with the inserts painting black, like on the newer models. Now I get what Mercedes was trying to do here and make the car look a little bit more unique, but I think overall it dates it. Now a few bolts later and I've successfully removed the grille from the car. Now I could have just bought one of these grilles with the black inserts online, but we are on a budget and it saved me around £50 by doing this myself. A good 30 minutes or so later, I've completely masked off the grille. Now I may have saved some money, but it did take me a fair amount of time to get this fully masked off. Same with anything like this, as long as you have the time and the patience to do this, you will end up with a decent looking result at the end of it. With a couple of coats of the gloss black paint, followed by 2 coats of lacquer, I get the grille looking exactly what I was looking for. Remaining around the front of the car, next up I address the sorry state of the lower metal grills. All are misshapen and paint chipped. Now each of them have been pushed back into the body kit. As this is the AMG kit, these are made out of metal, not plastic, and are a couple of £100 each to replace, so we're definitely going to try and refurbish these and get these looking as good as new. All these little white dots you can see on the grills aren't dirt or anything, that's actually where the paint's come off and it's exposed metal. Now the tricky part of this restoration will be removing them without breaking the plastic clips which hold each of the grills in place. And not forgetting the centre section, which is more or less the same as the sides, maybe a little bit easier just because of its size, and there's also a little cutout for your thumb to grab it. So I've got all the grills off the car, and I've noticed that there's a couple of hairline cracks within the plastic trim. With my soldering iron, I'm going to plastic weld them. Now I do have a plastic weld kit, but it's a bit overkill for the thinness of these sections of plastic. So by simply burning crosses across the actual crack, it should be enough to hold the plastic trim together. It's a pretty simple concept really, but it's really effective. You can only really get away with this when the plastic's extremely thin. All you're doing is melting the two, or bonding the two sections together. You flip it over and you can barely even notice it, and even better once I've sprayed it. Speaking of which, a couple of coats of black paint and these will look right as rain. Yeah, don't worry about what the paint's doing to my lawn. And here's the final result. Now what I didn't film is actually bending or manipulating the mesh back to its original shape. It's kind of tricky to film, but yeah, all I did was by hand and with a couple of tools, just get rid of all the flat spots and get it curved as it looks when the panel was new. It's not 100% perfect, there's a few tiny little raised bits, but compared to how it was before, you barely even notice. They look brand new. And here's the final result, a complete refresh of the front end of the car, and all it cost was a small amount of spray paint. Rest of it was just time. Back inside the car, there was one area which definitely showed off the car's 173,000 miles. It was the sorry state of the steering wheel. Now looking at it, you'd think that it was actually covered in mould here. I initially did when I bought the car. So a deep clean of the wheel revealed that it was just actually the paint which was coming off, and doing a deep clean it literally came off in my hands. Now rather than fork out at least over £100 for a new second-hand steering wheel, I just used some steering wheel restoration kit. These are a multi-stage kit comprising of cleaner, some black dye, and then finally some top coat or lacquer. Once the wheel was fully clean and dry, I applied the black dye, building up in layers and applying gently, one section at a time. Slowly dabbing, enough to allow this paint to absorb into the wheel. Allowing 15 or 20 minutes between each layer, enough to allow the paint to dry, I slowly built it up until it started looking like a proper wheel again, really good condition. Now you notice it hasn't got a shine to it yet, that's because we have to wait for it to fully dry before applying the top coat or lacquer. Now the key with this is to build up a layer at a time, so you make sure you cover the whole wheel and then let it dry and rinse and repeat a couple of times until we start building up a shine like so. Pretty impressive, eh? Now this shot here was taken around 6 months after I actually applied this, so it's held out really well, none to come off my hand, and it's far cheaper than getting a replacement wheel. Continuing the theme of smartening up the appearance of the exterior of the car, the wipers were completely sun damaged, which had turned all the black plastic trim grey. Now an easy solution to this would have been to just apply some wipes which temporarily darken the plastic for a week or so. Not me. Now I completely removed the wipers fully off the car and then sprayed them with some black plastic trim paint. Now I do this with all my cars, which completely refreshes them, making them look as good as new once again. And in addition to the wiper blades, I always do the exact same process on all my cars for the front number plate plinth. Now it's amazing what a difference all these little changes do. By painting all the grey faded plastic black, it really freshens up the appearance of the car. And here it is once finished, looking matte black and as good as new. The next part of the car's restoration were both rear arches. These both had visible surface rust on both sides, which is a common fault on this vintage of C Class. I used an angle grinder to remove all areas of rust before I used filler and a sander to get the metal flat and smooth, and then I sprayed them for the perfect finish. Now I've created a separate how-to video on the channel detailing this entire process. Go and take a look at it after this video. Okay, so I spent the entire video, as well as most of the series, without addressing the main reason why we got the car, which of course is our Labrador, Fred. Hello, Fred. How you doing? Yeah, so the car is perfect size for him. I guess ideally probably should have got an E-Class estate really, it's a lot bigger, a bit more space, but he seems to be all right in it. We still haven't addressed the issue we've got with the dog guard. He still wants us to kind of climb up at the side, so we don't even use it anymore. What we're doing instead is using this kind of the luggage loop, putting his lead in it. I've replaced put separate replacement carpet, like a mat down, just to protect it. And then it's not really a problem with the car, but this dog hair gets absolutely everywhere. But yeah, otherwise he gets in the car perfectly well and gets out as well. See, for the most part, all good. So yeah, that's the main reason why we even got the car, and it's working out perfectly. All right, so now that the car's completed, it's about time I actually went over costs. Now we're, 7 episodes in and I've never actually addressed this. And I have seen a number of comments in the section below each video asking me what the breakdown of the cost is. So, the car originally I found on Facebook Marketplace for £1,000. It was the AMG kit version, but it was kind of a non-runner. So I managed to haggle them down for £600, which I thought was fairly good for I wanted a diesel 2.2 with the AMG kit, the Sport Edition. So yeah, £600 for that. The car was located the other side of the UK. I don't have my own trailer and I don't know anyone, none of my mates have got one, so I had to hire a guy, that was an extra £200. Obviously if the car was local I wouldn't need that, so I'm going to put a little asterisk next to that cost, but for now we'll include it. As soon as I got the car back to mine, I put it through to my garage and got it MOT'd, put it through an MOT test. That was £54. Now, inevitably it's going to fail immediately, but it would give me a full breakdown of everything I need to fix on the car. Inevitably, there were the things that weren't declared when I bought the car, but there we are. So it immediately became apparent, and I knew anyway that all the suspension and everything needed replacing. So one of the front springs was actually completely snapped. So what I did, I bought an IBAC lowering spring kit, lowers the entire car down 3 centimeters, and that was £210, which actually was pretty much the same price as OEM. So get the whole car lowered for the same price, excellent. Added to which we needed the suspension struts, got a pair on the front, which were £283. A new front anti-roll bar, which was £72. Now on any other car you just replace the bushes. No, not on Sport Edition, you have to replace the entire bar. If you check out my video I'll go into detail about that. That was £72 for the anti-roll bar. Then I had a pair of control arms which are £49 each, and then a front drop link which was £38.26 in total. Now that all the suspension sorted, and then moved on to the brakes, so needed a full set of brake discs all around. Front pair were £129 for the two, and the rear were more expensive for some reason. They were £168.62 for a pair. Added to which the pads were £41. So the whole car's sorted at this point, and yeah, put it through an MOT again, which was obviously another £54 because I didn't do it within the, I think it's a week or however long it is. It was a couple of months later. While I had them MOT at the second time, I asked them to do a full oil flush, which was £65. Yeah, I could have done the oil change myself, but it's just easier. I haven't got anywhere to dispose the oil. I have to go down the recycling centre. Just get them to do it. It's fine, £65. Okay, afterwards, driving around for a couple of weeks, then the starter motor failed. So that was a £77 for a new starter motor. Yeah, I went for the kind of the cheap aftermarket version. I could have replaced like for like and got another Bosch unit, but that would have been £300 or £400. And actually, I think it was even more than that. So I just went with a starter motor, kind of unbranded, and it should be fine. So all sorted. The car seemed to be working fine. Got through MOT, and then I had the dreaded gearbox issue. Now I managed to source online from Mercedes of Edinburgh, of all places, on their eBay shop. I got the gearbox flush kit. Now that included the 5 litres of ATF fluid, the sealant, the new gasket, as well as the transfer plate, I believe it's called, the whole kit, the whole caboodle. And then I took it to my garage to do, because although I've got some of the tools, for this job, I got them to flush it out and do everything, which is £185. Now, not only did they flush it out, they cleaned all the wiring loom, they checked whether it went up to the control unit for the gearbox, which is a common issue. But yeah, I'd say £185 for that. So yeah, the costs are mounting at this point, and it was kind of just over £2,000. It's kind of exactly where I wanted to be. So with the car completely sorted, I wanted to start modifying it. So I managed to source a C32 AMG rear box off Facebook Marketplaces, and I managed to get it for only £50. Cleaned it up, excellent condition. Added to which, I needed a full set of exhaust hangers as a replacing that, which was another £20. So that's all sorted with that, and then I wouldn't leave the car alone. I wanted to modify it again, so I replaced the alloys and got some AMG Style 3 18-inch ones off a Facebook Marketplace. They were £250, but they were in a terrible state, and one of them was actually letting air out. But added to it, all the tyres on those new alloys were terrible. They had cracks in them, awful. So they got a full set of Nankang tyres for the wheels, plus the refurb, that was £750. I could, well, what I'm trying to do at the moment is sell the existing wheels which are on the car for 300, 250, maybe that kind of region. If I get 250 quid for them, that brings the total cost that I've spent to...
So an update since I recorded this footage, I actually managed to sell the old 17-inch wheels for £300, which brings the total amount spent on this entire project to £3,036.88. Not forgetting, if I also didn't require the trailer and to get the car delivered to me, I could have knocked off another £200 off this overall total.
Now, £3,000 for a 19-year-old Mercedes. Now, a lot of you out there will be like, what on earth have you done? I could have bought the newest shape, probably stretched to a W204 estate for that money. However, the car now is completely sorted. The gearbox is all sorted, the brakes all sorted, it's had a service, brand new brakes, brand new suspension, and I know the history. I've replaced everything myself. I know I have the knowledge that the car's going to be fine for hopefully another 5-10 years with no other mechanical issues. Now, I hear you screaming at the camera, what about labour? Yeah, I've done a kind of wheeler-dealers here and haven't really included the cost. Now, myself and my friend Ed have done all the work to the car. I say myself, Ed's pretty much done the majority of the kind of... no, I tell a lie. He's given me the knowledge. We've both done it, but he's the one with all the tools and all the knowledge of how you do this. So, and his payment was just beer tokens. So yeah, if you were taking this to a garage to do it, you could probably add on a couple more grand to that cost. It wouldn't be financially viable at all to get a garage to do this. But as a DIY project, I think £3,000 roughly, plus beer tokens, you're looking excellent. I think it's worked out fantastically. I've got a car that I can completely rely on. I can take it wherever I want, carry the dog around with no issues whatsoever. I'm over the moon with the car, and I can get up to 60 to the gallon to it. It's got to the point now where I rarely use the SL. The SL's become, I guess, what it was sort of designed for. It's a weekend toy, whereas the estate I'm using it all the time, and if I do damage it or scratches the car, it's not the end of the world. The car doesn't, you know, it's what, 10% of the value of the SL, probably even 5% of the value of the SL. So yeah, it's in a good place, and we may even be taking it on a long European road trip, so watch this space.
Now, if you've been following the series since the beginning, you'll know that I got the car for two reasons. First being the dog, and the second was, can I get the car over to Germany to the Nurburgring? Now, you currently join us, we're on the Eurotunnel, we're just waiting to go under the tunnel, and we should arrive in Calais in about 20 minutes or so. The intercom's just going off, of course, while I'm talking. Anyway, can I get this...
Your attention, please.
So I've had to come inside because the intercom's going to go off, and it's going to go off again in French. Anyway, where was I? Can I get this £600 car all the way to Germany, to the Nurburgring without any problems? Now, we're 2 hours in so far with about another 3 to go. Fingers crossed we'll get there without any issues whatsoever. So yeah, as I just mentioned, we're already 2 hours into this journey, having already made it around London's M25 and then down the M20 until we get to the Channel Tunnel. Once we arrive in France, it's dual carriageway pretty much the entire way until Germany. We'll be passing through France, Belgium, and possibly even the Netherlands if the traffic takes a turn for the worse. And just like that, we're here at the Nurburgring. Now, it took about 4 hours or so and about 400 miles, but we finally made it. Now, the car, £600, and it got here flawlessly. Well, apart from one issue, it had a little bit of a noise in the back, scared us a bit, because the rear wiper was hanging off, but we fixed that. Otherwise, no issues at all. So I guess it's time, as we're here, to go for a lap. The entrance to the track is just a couple of miles down the road from the large Nurburgring sign. Now, anyone with a road legal vehicle can drive on the Tourist and Fastened Sessions, or TF for short.
Generally these are daily between 5 and 7:30 PM, with each lap going to cost you €30 a go, which you'll need to top up with this card with credit beforehand, and then you simply swipe the card at the barriers and off you go. We managed to complete 2 full laps of the track with the C Class. For this video I'll just include a collection of highlights from the first lap. Now if you want to watch the video of the entire lap, check out the separate upload of the video which I'll link on screen now.
This is Sabine Schmidt curve. Hear our tyres a bit, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Foxhole.
Ow.
Okay, that wasn't nice, was it? He nearly clipped us then, didn't he?
Yeah.
Amazing the speeds they go, right?
Yeah.
I think when you've watched this back on video, it'll be the slowest lap you've ever seen.
It's probably your slowest, isn't it? This car?
Yeah, these brakes have got no power.
It's
I
scary.
can smell them, in fact, can you? So this is the slow bit up there. This is where the car struggles. Called Mud Curver, which is Courage Corner, and I have no courage. Some people can do it flat out, I'm not.
That was the best bit.
The tyres.
Yeah.
We're nearly at the end. Galgum Kopf, and then we're on the main straight. Wicked. Wow.
Your heart rate. So, first lap done in the estate, how did it go?
I'll be honest with you, I kind of scared myself. I completely underestimated how bad the brakes are in this. I went into it just thinking that the car's going to be slow, which of course it was, going up in the uphill sections like Exmüller. But yeah, the brakes were just terrible. There's a couple of times, I think twice, I nearly like brown pants moments. Otherwise though, we could hear the tyres squealing. Yeah, there's a smell of brake pads, tyres, yeah, but amazing. I'm still kind of shaking. So good. Yeah, and it's actually more terrifying in a slow car because of the other cars, the speed difference. They're going so quick. Brilliant though, always brilliant. So here we are, the very next day, back in the UK. Now it took the best part of 8 hours to get back. That's 7 hours driving and then an hour in the tunnel with queuing and everything. I will admit it's a bit of a slog, but yeah, it's about 410 miles or so. The car performed fantastically, no mechanical issues or no issues whatsoever, bar the issue with the rear wiper, but that was my fault. Car got there to Germany, went around Germany, different places, and of course come back and then a couple of laps around the Nordschleife with no issues whatsoever. Now, it did become apparent very early on that the car's incredibly under-braked. The brakes on it were, I mean, brown pants moment a few times. But let's not forget, it's a family wagon. It's not designed for going around a racetrack, especially the Nurburgring. They did make the special edition, sport editions one with larger brake kits and so on. Unfortunately, I haven't got it on this model. Could have done with it, but otherwise, brilliant. Can't fault it whatsoever. I set out on this project back in December last year with the sole intention of making a car which was able to haul my dog around and be like a family work wagon, and I set myself the challenge of going to the Nurburgring in Germany. It's done both of those, and then if we look at the car itself, a couple of battle wounds which the car had before I got it, but apart from being absolutely filthy, look at it, absolutely perfect. It really does highlight this kind of obsession in the UK with just having brand new cars all the time, swapping out cars for the sake of it. I mean, I got this car for £600, I spent a couple of grand on it, best part, well, 3,000 to get it ship shaped. And look at it, I can probably have this for a good couple of years with no issues at all. Really, really great project. So that pretty much marks the end of the entire series. It went from a £600 car to a £3,000 car, but I got to the Nurburgring in the end with no issues at all. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see other videos like it, consider clicking on that subscribe button as well as the bell icon. That way you're notified as soon as I upload new videos and content. As always, thanks a lot for watching. Cheers.